Alright, I'm making this video immediately after my last video because it's kind of weird to break down all of this technical stuff without first explaining what even is an auto-executable. So you'll find, sometimes they're referred to as, let me make this a visible size here. I'm just going to do this kind of as a one-off. It's, it's not scripted. Last video wasn't scripted. Yeah, I think 28 will be fine. So you'll see it referred to as config. You'll see it referred to as autoexec. You'll see this referred to as any number of things, really. Let me try to think of a third example. Yeah, I mean, basically, these are the two primary things that a autoexec, a graphics config, is referred to as. Now, what this actually is wow, that is terrible. Why did I not select the brush? So a config and an autoexec are two terms that terribly describe what the topic, what the concept truly is. So what an autoexec is an auto-executable configuration file. Okay, so people will shorthand it. Most people in the config community will understand what that means, but this is what it actually is. It's an auto-executable or auto-executing configuration file. And how this works is the source engine. I'm not aware of any other games that do this as outside of Source, but I know the source engine, the game is launched. The source engine, let me bring this over here. The source engine will find the config file in Team Fortress 2. It'll be in Team Fortress 2, I believe Counter-Strike. Now, I don't know with all the changes, but for sure, Team Fortress 2 and I believe Gmod. The source engine will boot up, it'll find the config, it will execute it. And the reason it executes this automatically is because of the name. If it was named anything else, you would have to manually execute it in the console once the game boots. But if you name it autoexec.cfg, the source engine will activate all commands. What's a better way of putting that? Source engine and applies the source engine accepts and applies options defined in that is essentially the fundamentals on how it works. Now, if this doesn't make sense immediately, don't worry about it. I'm going to continue trying to explain what the heck even is an autoexec, an auto-executable. What's a config? What does all of this mean? How does it work? So I got what I would consider to be a fairly decent definition of what it does, or at least a better term for it, kind of a breakdown. And then over here, this is what happens when it's launched. The game is launched. Source engine finds the config. It automatically executes it if it's named autoexec.cfg. And all of the console commands, all of the variables, all of the flags, all of the options defined within the autoexec.cfg are executed. They are turned on. Some settings are turned off. Some things are removed. You can have hundreds and hundreds of commands in an autoexec, and the source engine will automatically boot up and accept all of these inputs you fed it in the autoexec. So instead of trying to punch in all these commands one at a time when you launch the game, or I guess a more practical example would be when you launch a game, Team Fortress 2, for example. And when you launch Team Fortress 2, instead of going in and changing all the settings every single time, in the graphical setting changing area, not through the console, you just do this and it'll do it all for you. Now, that's what happens. You boot the game up, the source engine looks for an auto-executable file, configuration file, sorry, and it executes all of the options within it. Now that's out of the way. Now, what is an option? You know, what is a console command? A console command is this, in the context of the source engine and source games, a console command is basically a setting or an instruction you tell the engine to execute. So for example, a popular command would be matfong 0. Now what this does is it removes specular lighting, it removes the shininess from certain things, and it reduces rocket trails and explosion particles. In general, this is one of the many commands in Team Fortress 2 that are used to reduce the graphical fidelity of the game in the hopes of raising the frames per second. There's matfong, there are a plethora, and that's just a graphical issue. There are console commands for sound, there are console commands to do funny things, there are console commands to do basically anything under the sun as long as the server has cheats enabled. Any game with the source engine can be a sandbox. Public matches do not have cheats enabled, like official Valve servers, but if you hosted your own, you know, it's like game mode 1 in Minecraft, right? You can fly around and do whatever you want, go crazy, go stupid. But the console commands are basically just options. That's a good way to think of them. They're options that are either manually punched in or punched in by other means, such as the auto-executable config, and these options have desired results when you turn them on. Now, the reason people make configs and the people reason, huh? What? What's going on up there? The reason that people will make configs and the reason people use them and punch in all these commands is, I mean, you might be assuming at this point, hey, why don't I just enable, I'm pouring myself tea here, don't think that's anything else. I promise it is tea. But the reason people may use these commands is because these settings are not available elsewhere in the game. You can't go into the settings menu and then, you know, disable matfong. You can't go into the settings in the graphical options panel and change your split packet rate and change your interp and change your CL underscore smooth and change like all these networking settings and all that. You can't do that. It's not possible. Valve never made a crazy, stupid, long graphical options list that has all the settings under the sun. That would be for nerds, and the nerds made configs. Valve gave them the power, hey, here's the Valve developer wiki, here are all the commands, here's how you can automatically execute them on game boot. Have fun. And people did indeed have fun. I hope this was a good enough demystified kind of video, a decent breakdown on what an autoexec is, how it works, you know, what is the console, what are the console commands, and just a general breakdown on the entire situation, because I really wish a decent resource like this was available when I first started making my config. I had to figure it all out kind of the hard way, and I found all these tutorials of people on YouTube that were dumping already existing files into a directory, but I did not find anybody explaining what the hell it is and how it all works. So here's that. And it might very well exist now. That's fine. It can exist. I wanted to make this resource to kind of be uploaded in tandem with my last resource. It's a similar topic. It's a subject I know. a little bit amount, you know, a fair bit, a tidbit, a smidgen of knowledge on the subject. And I'm no programmer. I don't work it for Valve. All of this is self-taught, and I do it in my free time when I feel like it. I guess, same as in the last video, I will include the link to my GitHub releases page for my own personal auto-executable config. Yeah, hope it helped. Hope this is a good resource. If it was a good resource, give it a thumbs up, comment, share it to your friends. You know, whatever. Whatever. Forget about it, huh?